You're listening to the Larcomes Legal Limited podcast. Big enough to specialise, small enough to care.
I'm Sarah Wolf. I'm a solicitor in the industrial disease team at Larcomes and act exclusively on behalf of people who have developed asbestos-related conditions and their families. I'm here with Lisa Bello from the support group HASAG, who offer a range of services to those affected by asbestos. For those who aren't familiar with asbestos, it's a generic term for a naturally occurring group of fibrous materials characterised by heat resistance, strength and sound absorbing qualities. There's evidence that it's been used by humans for thousands of years. I think the Egyptians used it, ancient Egyptians. And during the 20th century, it was imported and used extensively in the UK, particularly in manufacturing, construction and shipbuilding. It's a very cheap and versatile material, but unfortunately also very toxic. As specialist solicitors, we see people from all walks of life and all over the South East and London who sadly have developed illnesses as a consequence of asbestos exposure. These include benign but still serious conditions such as asbestosis, asbestos-related pleural thickening, as well as malignant diseases such as mesothelioma, which is an aggressive form of cancer which is invariably caused by asbestos. There's also a potential link to other forms of lung cancer. Typically, it takes 30 to 40 years from exposure for symptoms to manifest, although the range seems to be as much as 15 to 60 or 70 years. Larcomes is one of 7 firms on HASAG's legal panel. Lisa will talk about the work that HASAG does, but the charity provides a comprehensive service to those affected by asbestos, which includes providing a list of specialist solicitors. Obviously, people are free to choose their own solicitor, but HASAG can at least reassure them that those on the panel are experts in the area and meet HASAG's stringent requirements. We at Larcomes are very proud of our long-standing association with HASAG, which dates back many years.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me today. It's a great opportunity to spread awareness of HASAG. So I'm Lisa Bello, and I've been with the charity since 2009 after my auntie was diagnosed with mesothelioma. So HASAG was founded in 2006 after Lynn and Diane lost their dad, Dave, to mesothelioma. Now, the reason this charity was set up is because their journey was so horrific. They had no support and nowhere to go. So they thought, actually, we don't want any other family to go through this. So there was born HASAG. So we're an asbestos-related charity that cover the southeast of England, London and home counties. So we offer home visits, so we go and see patients that are newly diagnosed with mesothelioma, go meet them in their home, so in their own surroundings, which is comfortable for them. And we just really there to not only help with benefits, but to listen and to signpost to other authorities as well and other services. Because quite often when a patient has been diagnosed, they go into clinic and they're fully suited and booted, but you don't actually get the real picture of how they're coping at home. So we actually look out for that and we can then signpost to other services. We also offer coffee mornings across the areas that we cover. And again, sometimes it's patients that are perhaps on their own or even family members that come along. So it's open to everyone. We always try and have a nurse specialist at the coffee mornings, so they're not actually in clinic, so they can ask those questions that maybe they've perhaps forgotten to ask or sometimes a little bit scared to ask. So, I think that's really, really important. We're really proud to say that we have our own mesothelioma nurse specialist with HASAG, and her role is just to be a nurse specialist out in the community. Again, following up from our visits, we perhaps may pick up on something, or there may be questions, and we're certainly not medically trained, so we just give the advice that speak to Rachel and she can sort of, be that liaison for them. We also offer a great service, which we're really, really proud of, is a counselling service. I think that we did a lot of research on this and we asked patients, what is there that we could perhaps expand on our service. And everyone said, can you offer counselling? Because I can't get in to a counsellor. So we're really, really proud of that. We managed to win a lottery fund, and that's, been invaluable. We also look at wills as well, will writing service. So we offer that free of charge. So, because quite often that can be a real concern for patients, let's get our affairs in order, and actually worrying about their spouse being okay. And quite often they've not got a will in place. So I think that's quite important as well. Do lots of fundraising as well. I have to admit, I'm not the one to abseil or to do any sort of jumping out of aeroplanes and things. So I'm at the bottom supporting. But, this is a really, really big part of our charity as well. And we've done some amazing things, and we've got such fantastic support from our patients and their families, and do some crazy fundraising events for us. We also fund mesothelioma nurse specialists and offer educational funding as well, because it's really, really important, that these nurses have got that funding to be able to obviously attend the event. And each year we have something called Action Mesothelioma Day, which is across the country. So it's a day where they bring awareness to mesothelioma. And we're proud to say that we're way over the £1 million we've actually sent to research. So again, really, really proud of that. So coffee mornings, visits, benefits advice, and signposting to amazing solicitors. So it's a great job. We meet amazing people, but it's really, really important because everyone at HASAG has had a family member who has been diagnosed with mesothelioma. So for us, we want to just keep this going and get that awareness out there. So I thank you for this opportunity at Larcomes, and, for us to just have a voice out there. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. And thanks to HASAG. And, we all know and are grateful for the work that you do for people who are in a desperate situation quite often. I think it makes a huge difference.
Oh, thank you.
And tragically, because of this country's shameful history of asbestos use and the long latency period of the disease, people continue to become ill as a consequence of exposure to asbestos at work, in the environment, in the buildings in which they work, from asbestos products, or even secondhand from exposure to others' clothing. I should perhaps flag up a recent podcast on BBC Sounds called Assume Nothing, Killer Dust, which, to anybody interested, it's a fascinating but chilling insight. But it's got lots of interviews with families who've been through this, and also investigative journalists and lawyers such as John Pickering and Adrian Budgeon, who have been doing this work for many years. And I know, nobody really wants to ever have to speak to a lawyer, but actually their work and the work that we're all doing, we like to think, but it started really before the 80s with people who've changed the legal landscape. And certainly the big companies who subjected people to what they knew was this terrible danger would probably never have changed their practices had it not been for the fear of losing money. And it's through the work of the investigative journalists and the lawyers who've, there's a description in this podcast of how many boxes and boxes of papers that people had to sort of trawl through just to find the evidence they needed in the smoking gun. It's really informed the legal process for up till now. We're still fighting these cases. Defendant companies are not making it easy for us, but our aim really is to take as much of the burden off the patients as we possibly can, because nobody usually has experienced this kind of litigation before, and it's terribly daunting. It puts a lot of people off. I think it helps that HASAG has this reassuring presence, but I would really stress that part of our job is to make the whole process as painless as possible. Our practice as specialist solicitors is to visit potential clients as soon as we possibly can at home. Lisa's already alluded to the fact that that tends to be where they're most comfortable. And that really is with a view to taking a detailed employment history with particular reference to any asbestos exposure. Quite often, and increasingly, there is no obvious occupational exposure. So we also explore other potential sources, such as environmental exposure, second-hand exposure, or to products such as talc. We investigate the culpable companies. Given the long latency period, it's quite common for employers to have ceased trading, but this isn't an insurmountable problem if we can trace the employer's liability insurers on risk at the time of the exposure. We also obtain medical records with a view to obtaining a report from an independent respiratory expert dealing mainly with diagnosis and prognosis, although we don't tend to share that information with patients who, already have a picture from their treating consultants and doctors, what they're going to be going through. And, it really is for the purposes of the legal claim. At the same time, we start to collate details of any financial losses and expenses incurred as a consequence of the illness. And that, we make sure that include in that claim for any private treatment, the sort of treatment that's not available on the NHS. This is increasingly important because there have been so many advances and breakthroughs over the past few years with experimental treatment, which is incredibly expensive. It's beyond the reach of pretty much anybody. So, that again is, we always look into the options. If necessary, we can get reports from oncologists who specialise in that area. The aim is to progress a claim as soon as possible. And, we try our best to negotiate settlement, but if we do have to issue court proceedings, there's a fast-track procedure in the Royal Courts of Justice, which is presided over by specialist masters. Very few cases actually end up at court, but part of our job is to support people through the process as much as we can. There's no financial risk. Again, I know that's something that people really worry about. They're daunted by the legal process, and then they're terrified that they're going to end up losing money or paying a substantial amount out of their compensation, but there's no financial risk. We act on a no-win, no-fee basis, and if a claim succeeds, we simply negotiate our costs with our opponents rather than taking a contribution from compensation. So it really is all about specialising and making the process as painless as possible for people. And at the same time, as Lisa has explained, HASAG are always available to offer support and assistance. So I think, anybody who has been diagnosed, and it's a devastating diagnosis, or has a family member who's been told that they have an asbestos-related condition, or has in any way been affected by an asbestos-related illness, it's important that you contact a support group, contact HASAG. And obviously as a lawyer, I would say this, but I also think even if you aren't keen on the idea of involving a lawyer, or you don't think that there's anything that can be done, it's still important to talk to a specialist lawyer. So there are 7 on HASAG's panel. We all pretty much do nothing but asbestos work, which helps. We understand the process, we understand our opponents, we're up to date with the case law. So if you want to talk about the legal aspect, then Larcomes and others on the legal panel are always available.